I'm John Thompson, Interim Chief of Police for Arizona State University Police Department.
I'm Chris Hopkins. I'm the Real-Time Analysis Center Manager with the Arizona State University Police Department. All the things that I've learned in the last year since we've been in operation, some of the challenges to deal with money, equipment, staffing, whether to run your center under the police department model or to run it under the model of a security department or security center, which would work best for the needs of your university, taking all those things into consideration, whether it would even benefit having a joint center with a jurisdiction that is close by. It's nice to have the buy-in of command to begin with, because my boss approached me and said, I want to set up a real-time crime center here at the PD, so we had to start from that point forward. To be honest with you, I was like, I don't know much about it, but I'll go learn everything I can. So that was the first step, is figuring out what it is, what they do, how they have it set up, and then I brought that piece back to then discuss about what was realistic, what wasn't realistic, what resources do we already have available for us, and then how much funding can I have.
A lot of it is getting buy-in from leadership throughout the university and other stakeholders, and then of course it costs money, so getting those budget issues dealt with. It wasn't in our case. We had seen other departments doing this nationwide, and we saw the benefits. Being that we are so spread out throughout the metro area, we found that there could be great benefit to us to be able to better pay attention to what's happening at our other campuses, at our headquarters building. So as members of command staff, when things were happening at campuses, we obviously have officers there, but there's a delay sometimes in getting some of that information as they're dealing with the case. And so we felt like having a center that I could walk across the hall and start getting real-time information and funnel that information up through the leadership was going to be beneficial. And then of course sitting down with that leadership and other stakeholders and get that buy-in and help them understand what we were trying to do. And obviously there's always concerns, Big Brother looking at us and stuff like that. And so we had to be very intentional with what are our objectives here. And we made it very clear we were not going to do anything facial recognition or things like that. So, really that policy piece is very important to, again, figure out what is the objective here, and then how are we going to go about it where we can get that buy-in from our community at large.
First, I had to figure out what was our goal and objective and our needs. What crime issues were most prevalent for us, what was our biggest issue. Property crime at ASU is probably the most consistent and regular thing that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Having the cameras in place, having that resource already there, that the university chose to have a camera system in place. So we had to kind of change how we deploy cameras in the future to better cover what we need, because we also have to think about events and large gatherings that could occur on campus. But in the beginning, it was all about, where do I have a camera near a bike rack? Do I have a camera near where things have been stolen, for me to be able to see those things? And since the university had that system set up and we had access to it, now it's about taking that information and then using law enforcement resources and intelligence and other methods to then ID suspects, to then hopefully build cases. Well, for us, the biggest win was probably having those camera systems that the university had, but then my next biggest thing was the LPR camera. That allowed us to then identify people who are coming and going in vehicles, and allowed us to then start to maybe identify subjects themselves. Those two things probably became the two best tools that we could immediately start with, and then I was able to build on with successes and wins, be able to build out what we could possibly do in the future.
Certain types of cases require our supervisors to send what we call a command notification, and then I will forward those where it shows that the center was used to carry out the investigation of that case. I will forward those as appropriate to different stakeholders to, again, have them realize they don't forget about it. They're constantly seeing, usually at least maybe once a week, they're getting something that shows, hey, we use this technology to carry out this investigation. And by the way, it's not just investigations. We've used it for other things like lost kids at a football game. Yep. Or things like that. And so, sometimes the focus is really on investigations and stuff, but we try to also focus on those other day-to-day non-criminal cases where we have successes, and that also then gets that buy-in.
Take into consideration, do you have a 911 center in your dispatch? Are they taking calls for service? Are they communicating that information, or is it coming from another source? Do you have a 911 center that then sends the dispatch center for your police department that information? That alone causes some issues because the 911 call takers have to be able to hear what's going on. They have to be able to hear the background information. They have to take in all that additional information. We started off in the same room together, but it became evident a few weeks in, maybe about a month in, that we needed to probably find our own space for our benefit and for their benefit so that they could continue what they were doing. But in the end, it was really for the benefit of the officer. The officer needed to be able to hear what we were talking about instead of us just talking over our shoulder to each other. So it became more important to put it on the radio so that they could hear. So all three sides, the dispatcher knew what was happening, the center knew what was happening, and the officer in the field, who is really the person that we're working for, they could hear what was happening.
Where we ended up moving our center to was our EOC, our Emergency Operations Center within the department. And typically you would have a bunch of stakeholders come in and flood into that area. We decided as we built this center out, and just given the technology advancements like Zoom, we figured it would probably be better operationally and space-wise to work with our university emergency management to add Zoom rooms into our center so that when a emergency were to happen, we could have our stakeholders, our leadership, Zoom into that room. So if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it would take an hour to 2 hours for leadership to come into the center and start getting a briefing on what's happening. Now we're cutting that down to a phone call, get on this Zoom link, and now we can start having conversations, giving a brief of what's happening. We can share those live feeds with those stakeholders so that we can really start to determine policy driven decision making, and then also is this going to impact classes? Do we need to start working on some messaging? Do we need to cancel classes, or do we need to communicate some challenges with vehicle traffic coming in the morning or whatnot? So we just cut down a lot on that extra drive time by incorporating Zoom into the center.